Before we talk about money, business, AI agency stuff, online business, all that good stuff, I want you to just think about something. So, have you ever noticed that the harder you try to fall asleep, the more awake you become? And also, like, let's say you took a sales call and you did not care at all about the outcome, okay? But somehow it ended up going the best, right? You weren't trying to close, you weren't attached to the outcome, yet you were calm and it worked. Every single person that's watching this video has experienced that before, that kind of effortless succeeding, right? You don't put anything in, you don't even care about the outcome, yet you somehow end up getting it. And that is because effort does not equal results. Okay, I want to say that again. Effort does not create results. The only thing that creates results is identity. Now, the problem isn't your service. It's not what you offer, whether you run any kind of online business or business at all, like whether you offer, AI agency services, whether you offer, SMMA services, whatever kind of business that you have, coaching, consulting, like mentorship, whatever it is, right? The problem is not your service and it's not what you offer. Okay, it's not your fulfillment, it's not your client acquisition, it's none of this stuff. Okay, this is not the problem. The problem is that nothing external changes until your internal world does. And nobody does this. Nobody understands this, and that's probably why getting actually good results is so rare. Everything in your life comes from how you see the world, and how you see the world comes from who you believe you are, right? Your identity, who you are. And if you don't believe me, look at this. June of 2024, I had made $100 total in the entire month. That was my first ever taste of making money online. I made $100 from an agency. In August of 2024, I made $9,997. I will always be pissed because it wasn't 10K, but that was my first ever little taste of success. And shortly after, in October of 2024, I had made $22,761 in a single month. Okay, and for the longest time, I thought that I needed to work harder. I needed to learn more. I needed to do more. I needed to spend more to make more. Like, I thought I needed to, put all this effort in to get this result. But the moment things actually changed wasn't when I added something. It was when my identity changed. That was the key to all of this. Because I didn't go from 0 to 20K in a single month because I suddenly got smarter. Okay, there wasn't some overnight shift in how smart I was or anything. It wasn't because I found, some magical strategy that just seemed to work super well and make me a bunch of money. It's like none of those were true. It's because I stopped operating from the identity of someone trying to get the result and started acting from the identity of someone who already has the result. Now, this video isn't motivation. I'm not creating this video for motivation for you. I just want to show you how identity actually changes and how you can actually go about changing who you are to someone else in order to get a different result. Okay, if you put the same input in, if you do the same thing, you will get the same result. And this video will teach you how to change, because it is shocking how different this is. I had a zero. I had nothing. I had literally nothing. I was working at a car wash, shoveling mud and dirt out of a pit in a car wash. And something changed in that time, in that firewall, to get on the other side. Like, I literally am looking over the Dubai skyline in this video at 18 years old after making over $20,000 in a single month. What the hell happened to go from there to there? Okay? What happened was my identity changed. I changed who I was. And it wasn't just like one-time change, obviously. It was actual everlasting change. And that's the point of this video. I'm going to show you how identity actually changes and why, once that happens, outcomes have no choice but to follow. You will get the outcome that you desire if you can do this. So, number one, trying harder doesn't matter. So the harder you try, the more resistance you will experience. And it's so funny. It's such an oxymoron because you think that the harder you try, the more inputs that you put in, like, you will get the better output and you actually end up with the outcome that you want. But that isn't how this works. Let's say that you're walking. I want to give you a really good example here. Let's say you're walking down a street. It's completely natural. It doesn't take much effort, none of that. It's just something that you're designed to do, right? It's natural. You don't need motivation. You don't need to think about it. You just walk. Now, however, let's say that you put on shoes that are 2 or maybe 3 sizes too small. Walking becomes extremely painful. You don't want to walk anymore. Because every single step that you take creates more and more friction, and it just destroys your feet, and it hurts, and it gets extremely painful over a long enough time. And you start to hesitate before even moving. But eventually, the bad thing is that you start second guessing yourself, like whether you should even be walking in the first place, is if it's even worth it to. And I know that this is kind of an extreme example here, but you'll start to tell yourself that maybe you're just not meant to walk in the first place. And you can try harder. You can try harder and try more and more and put more and more effort in, but it won't work. It just won't. And the problem was never the walking in this example. The problem was the misfit between your structure and your action. Okay, we all agree that taking action is ultimately what will give you the results. But if the structure doesn't align with your action, then no matter what you do, you won't get the result. You just won't. So replace the shoes, in this case, with your identity. This misalignment is biological, right? It's completely ingrained in us. And you will try to drastically change your current self, but your biological self, like, you will see that, your subconscious will see that as a form of killing your old self. That is not easy. And if this is you, right, if this applies to you, then you will experience some of the following. If you are trying to change your identity, if you are having a hard time in getting a certain outcome, if this is you, you'll experience the following. You avoid the real work by pretending something else is more important. You let little things pull your focus instead of controlling your environment and attention. You wait for a coach, accountability partner, or some kind of permission to move instead of deciding for yourself. You avoid action because doing the work exposes you to judgment, failure, or being seen. You've trained your brain to chase dopamine all day and escape discomfort and do anything but the work required. You've judged people who show up, so doing it yourself feels like hypocrisy. You refuse to face the truth. You numb, you rationalize, you pretend that it's not that serious. You subconsciously attract chaos or emotional conflict to feel busy instead of actually making progress. You keep putting it off, thinking time will somehow fix this misalignment and will get you what you want. And I know that these are all like very extreme cases, and this should be an eye-opener. If you relate to one of those things, then you are in this situation and this video will help you. This is biological. It's normal, but nobody talks about it. So, because your ego doesn't want to die, when you set a new goal and you want a new outcome for your life, and you begin to start acting outside of who you currently are and your current identity, it'll trigger a fight. And every time that you take action outside of your current identity, you will feel these things. Okay? So chances are, if you're feeling these things, then you are trying to take action to change your identity, but you are having an internal war with yourself because you aren't that type of person yet. Okay? Now, the thing is you just need to understand that the only reason why you feel these things is because a misalignment between your current identity and desired future. Right? It's the reason why people that say, everyone says you have to become the person that can achieve your goals. But like, what does that even mean? Like, what does that actually tangibly mean? Okay? You want to think about this like a battle. Okay? So any time that you feel any one of these forms of resistance towards not doing what truly matters, which ultimately is always going to be the work, it's simply your old self fighting a battle with your new self. You can think about it as like a battle. Now, the key is that you can't afford to let your old self win. Every time it happens, every time you take action towards what you actually want, because it's so out of alignment with your current situation and who you are right now, it feels like the hardest thing on the planet. And that is the battle and the internal battle that you have to fight constantly. So, number 2, what is your identity and how do we change it? Now, this is who you are. This is your identity. Okay. And before you click off like, oh, and what the hell is this? This is your identity. Okay. Let me zoom in a little bit. This is your identity. All you are is your sum is beliefs. This is literally all you are. This is all your identity is, right? Somewhere in this, one of these scales represents your beliefs. All of these scales represent individual beliefs. Somewhere in this belief is your belief about sales. Somewhere in this belief is your belief about what you can deliver your clients and actually have them be successful with. Somewhere in here is your belief about how much you can charge for your services given how much you know. Somewhere in here is your belief about how easy it is to learn a language. So this scale right here represents your belief about something. Now, the red scale represents the negative experiences that you have about something. So let's say, for example, that this scale was, I don't know, let's say this scale was your belief about that going on social media is bad. Okay, so you have red experiences and you have green experiences. You have good experiences with social media, but you have bad experiences. And because you believe that going on social media is bad, you have more in the red side than the green side. So the green side is the positive experiences that you have about a thing. Now, think of yourself as the scale. So anytime you experience anything, you will stack rocks in either side of these scales. And once again, all you are is a sum of these beliefs. This is your identity. Your identity is a sum of beliefs. Okay, and it looks just like this. And this represents your beliefs about everything in life. That's all you are. That's all your identity is. All right? So here's a good example. This scale right here is tipping heavily towards the red side, the negative side. And this is my personal belief about learning a new language. I have so many negative experiences in my past. So like when I try to learn a new language, like I believe it to be the hardest thing on the planet because it's so stacked in the negative side. I have so many experiences on the negative side. And they outweigh the positive, so it makes it extremely hard for me to justify taking action towards actually learning a language. Right? Obviously this is different now because I'm learning a language, but that just shows how this stuff works. That causes the belief that learning a language is very hard. These positive and negative experiences can be memory or imaginary. Now, this is what is kind of game breaking for people. It's like, yes, we will explain how to change your beliefs, how to change your identity. But this is just what your identity is. Okay, you are right now just a sum of these scales, a bunch of these scales. It's what you believe about everything, and that is what ultimately builds up to be your identity. Now, I just want to mention that these experiences, these rocks that you're stacking on either side of the scale, can be memory or imaginary. That is experiences. That's how our subconscious perceives it, right? So where do these come from? Now, when I was a kid, my teacher told me in elementary school that I was a natural born leader. I will forever remember this moment. There was a little bit of like a little sheet of paper and it said leader on it and the whole classroom signed it. And basically, because of this, I started to lead group projects and start group conversations, and I used to be the one that would speak up when no one was talking. And over enough mental processing, right, I started to believe that I can be successful working for myself, right? Because I started to take initiative on things and lead things, and I believed that I had enough self-confidence in myself as a leader that I was able to do this. And eventually, because of that, I made money. And because of that, I stacked a ton of rocks in the green side of the scale. And so now I just know like I can be insanely successful working for myself because of all these positive experiences doing so. So here's the problem with most people. When they start an online business or start a kind of, a business of some kind to make money online, whatever it is, most of them try to start here. They skip to here saying, I believe I can make money online. I believe that I can get a Lamborghini. I believe that I can work successful. They tell themselves these things, right? And then they take action, but because of this, they fail, so they continue to stack rocks on the wrong side of the scale, and without knowing it, they just inevitably quit and fail. This is what 99% of people watching do. Now, you can't change this. You can't just tell yourself, oh, I believe I'll be successful, and you'll become successful. It doesn't work like that. Okay, because these are deeply ingrained beliefs into your identity. You can't just change your identity just like that. By telling yourself something. You just can't. And this is too forward to control. And also, unfortunately, you can't change the past, right? I can't change what my elementary teacher told me, or what my parents told me, or what my friends told me when I was a kid, when I grew up with that information. But here is what we can control. We can control the mental processing part of it. So if you're understanding this correctly, through experiences, we can change our beliefs by stacking rocks on a certain side of the scale to ultimately influence and change our identity. So, this is what we can change. And at this stage in the process, we are able to actively change our thoughts and place rocks in the correct scale, which will change our experiences, which will change our beliefs, which will change our identity, which will change our actions, which will give us more money. Now, I just want to break this down to simplify it. So, results come from taking action. Okay, there's no doubt about that. That is just the truth. And taking action comes from who you are. If you're the type of person that will never not work 8 hours in a day and do something for it, or if you're the type of person that will never miss the gym, that's who you are. That's ingrained in your soul. You will take action every day and you will become jacked. So, behavior and action comes from identity. Identity comes from beliefs. Okay, like we said, identity is just a big map of those buckets, right? Those scales. And beliefs come from your experiences, which are the rocks stacked on each side of the scale, positive or negative. So in summary, you need to change your experiences to create new beliefs, to change your identity, which will change your actions, which will get you the desired results that you actually want. Now, this is how this works in total. But here's the sad truth about this. This is what most people will do. And most people will set a goal. They'll visualize it a few times. They'll try to create some experiences to change their beliefs. They'll do a few actions, but they don't get instant feedback because they don't get the result instantly. Then they'll feel discouraged. Then they'll think that the belief or the plan is broken, and they'll stack a bunch of negative rocks in the belief. They'll quit, and they'll start again with something new later on, never actually achieving what they set out to. This is what most people do. And the reason why is because they don't understand identity. I don't blame them. This is not an easy thing to understand. But once you do understand it, you can change yourself. And you can actually get what you want over enough time. So, who you are right now, obviously, is not who you need to be in order to achieve your goal. Because if it was, you would already have achieved your goal. So, by nature, if you're watching this video, you obviously have some kind of goal. And you are at a current place and you are not yet at that goal. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching this video and you wouldn't really be trying to change your identity. You would just be comfortable where you are. Think about New Year's, for example. So like every time everyone has New Year's resolutions, like they don't stick with them. Okay, people go to the gym for a week or two, but because that change is so far-fetched outside of their current identity, they don't stick with it. They just don't. I don't blame them because this is biological. It's like change is hard. It is. But this is the reason why people don't stick to the New Year's resolutions is because it never becomes a part of their identity. It never becomes ingrained into their identity. They never start to believe that they're the type of person that actually does the thing. Right? And so if you want to get the outcome, as I and so many others have, you have to change your identity. That is the only way. So, number 4, changing your identity. So, the actual transformation happens by making the shift first. You have to decide who you are now, feel into that version of you, install it with experiences, memory and imaginary, and stack rocks on the correct side of the scale in order to get what you want. And I will explain how to actually do this later on in this video. But according to neuroscience, all you have to do to cement irreversible change to your identity and create basically a new version of yourself is to strengthen neural pathways within your brain, right? If you play video games for 180 days straight, every single day, there will be so many strengthened neural pathways in your brain that you love playing video games, that it's a part of who you are, that you like all you do. Like it'll be so strengthened, a part of your identity, that you will take action and play video games every day. Okay? And it's the same thing with like waking up early. It's like, and habits as well. Like habits are a part of your identity, of who you are. And it's like habits don't get built until they're strong enough inside of your brain to actually become habits and become part of who you actually are. I can't imagine having a week where I don't go to the gym at least 5 days. I can't imagine that. It's not a flex. It's like what I am. Like I'm just used to that. I've been doing that for years. And so it's like, that's what you have to do, but for work. So most new behaviors and patterns are weaker than your default identity, so they die out unless you constantly feed them. This is the key. right? When you implement new behaviors and new patterns into your daily routines, into your daily actions, it's like those are so much weaker than what you're used to because you've always been that way. And so they will die out unless you constantly feed them. You won't keep taking action every day towards what you want to get unless you can ingrain it into part of your identity and who you actually are. So you don't want to try to act like the person you want to be. You want to actually become them. Literally become them, and the actions will follow. Right? If you become the person that can close 5-figure deals and scale an agency to multi 5 figures a month, and you actually become them first, your actions will be that of that person, and you will get that outcome. You can't act like someone that's doing that and get the outcome. It doesn't work like that. You have to consciously decide and become them. So this is the key. This chart right here is the answer. This is how you change your identity. This is how you change your beliefs, and this is how you get what you want. Okay? You intervene by changing your thoughts and beliefs. Your thoughts are imaginative experiences, and your memories as well are experiences. But like I said, like with beliefs, if you want to change your beliefs, here's how you do it. You stack experiences on a negative or positive side of the scale depending on what you want your intention to be. So let me give you an example. When I got to university for the first time, before I dropped out, after like a couple of weeks, I went out just on the street and I looked and watched all the people in line for the clubs and the bars. And I was so disgusted by this. I was so like, oh, this is disgusting. Like, why would anyone ever want to do this? This does not look fun. It looks degenerative. Like, I just don't like it. And right now, if you think about this scale, if you picture it, all of the red side, like the rocks and the red side are completely outweighing the green side. I would never go out, right? But one day, over enough time, I met a friend that was like, let's go out. Why are we not going out? And I was like, I don't really want to. I don't like it. I think it's gross and disgusting. Eventually, he convinced me to go out, and I had an amazing time. So now, instead of being completely negative weighed on that scale, there was a positive rock. And over the next 6 to 8 months, I went more and more and more and stacked more positive experiences associated with that until I eventually believed that going out was something I enjoy, something I want to do, right? That became my belief. So because of that, I took action. I went out. And because of that, I started to receive the negative, the negative outputs of doing so. That was my reality. And eventually, over enough time, that became who I was. I was the type of kid, like, I went out every weekend. I did. And so this is just a small, good example of how this stuff works. A good example with work is, let's say you want to become the person that does, enough outreach every day to hit your goal. Let's say every single day that it takes like 400 cold outbound touches every day to hit your goal. And you understand that, but you won't do it. So first of all, you have negative experiences associated with cold calling and cold outreach or cold SMS or whatever it is because you have people yelling at you, you have people screaming at you, and you don't ultimately have never gotten what you wanted to get. So what you do is you intervene by changing your thoughts and beliefs. So you consciously check yourself every single time that you think, oh, this sucks, to be like, oh no, I love this. This is great. So like literally a conscious shift every time that you think something, literally the act of changing your thoughts. And because of that, slowly you will start to stack rocks in the green side of the scale. You only focus on the positives instead of the negatives. So like, let's say you go through one day of calling people and you call like 200 people in a given day. Now, there might be 150 people that told you to fuck off. But the 50 people that didn't tell you to fuck off, you focus on the positive aspects of that and be like, oh, wow, that was a great call. Oh, wow, we made a bunch of progress there. Oh, wow, that was amazing. Right? Instead of being like, oh, that guy said fuck off. Like, you consciously, like your thoughts, you change them to only be focused on the positive. You can see things through lenses. Like I said earlier in this video, how your outcome depends on how you see the world. Right? So if you see it all in a positive light, then you continuously keep stacking rocks in the positive side of the scale. And before you know it, you believe that you're amazing outbound. You believe that you can book appointments easily, and it becomes it gets really easy. It's like, and before you know it, you're getting the result and making money, and it's easy. It's effortless. And that's what happened to me. Okay, I had so many experiences and focused on my the positive experiences only when I was doing cold SMS for the most part, and like Before I knew it, I had $23,000 or $24,000 in a single month in revenue, which I'd never have before then. And that's the power of this stuff, right? And creating a new identity is not a matter of weeks. Okay, and also something as well about this chart is that like once you have that new reality, the feedback will bend back into the beliefs. The feedback from that new reality will ultimately put more rocks in the scale. So let's say you do what I just told you about cold outbound. You only focus on the positives. Because of that, you take a ton of action. You do outbound for at least like 80 to 90 days straight. And because of that, your reality, you sign clients. You make money. The feedback will bend back into that belief, and now you fucking love outbound because it has paid you this much money and has changed your entire life. That is the power of this cycle, and this is the key to changing your identity. But the problem with most people is that it doesn't last, right? Creating a new identity is not a matter of weeks. It's a matter of months. Okay, so if you want to create everlasting change within your life, whatever it is, you must repeatedly interfere and change your thoughts and beliefs and take action for at least 90 days straight. Okay, I think the minimum time, according to neuroscience, to actually strengthen those neural pathways to create cementing change within yourself is at least 90 days. If you can't stick to something for 90 days straight, then you will ultimately go back to your old self and you will lose that battle that I mentioned earlier. But I just want to promise you, if you're watching this video, everything in your life will change if you do this. So, thanks for watching.